If you play through the story of Mondstadt and Liyue, we can notice that both Barbados and Morox have a Gnosis in the form of a chess piece. With this information, it's easy to infer that each of the 7 archons in the game also have a specific piece for themselves. But when we start allocating queen, the bishops, the knights, and the rooks to individual archons, an interesting situation happens. What about the king and the pawn? In this video, we will explore the concepts of the king and the pawn, determine who they could be, and speculate on what it might represent in the future story of Genshin Impact. Also, at the end of this video, we'll even discuss why a certain individual is going around yoinking all the Gnosis pieces. Welcome to Genshin Theory. The king and the pawn are lonely beings. One can't do much anything really, and the other is literal fodder. But there is no denying the fact that these two are the most important pieces in chess. The king is the overarching ruler, mostly stationary, but the game does end without the king, and the pawn often utilized as a sacrifice for the overall picture of the game. However, the pawn does have a secret ability. Now, if these two pieces are oh so important, they must represent something in Genshin Impact, right? Let's talk about the pawn. Literal throwaways. Causes problem for everyone else on the chessboard. In a sense, the main character fits the bill way too perfectly. For one, the main character is literally a sacrificial lamb to the overall story of Genshin Impact. Why? Pretty much wherever we go, we unknowingly cause problems, which results in pushing the agenda for the overall story. Are we really powering up this scary tree for some rewards, expecting no consequences? Weren't we supposed to be looking for a sibling? Genshin Impact, more like Genshin of Thrones Impact. Despite this, the pawn piece has a very important mechanic: promotion. In chess, if a pawn piece reaches the other end of the chessboard, it has the ability to change into any piece it wants, except the king. But what does this mean in Genshin Impact? This mechanic represents the main character's ability to harness different elements. But this theory does have a couple issues. First issue is that there are 8 pawn pieces. Now, if the pawns actually represent the ability to use different elements without a vision, to somewhat mitigate this issue, we can technically spread each of the 8 pawn pieces out to a specific entities. For example, 2 for the main character's siblings, 1 for the Abyss, 1 for Hilichurls, 1 for Kenria or even possibly Dainsleif. The leftover 3, honestly, I have no idea. The second issue is once a pawn promotes in chess, it cannot change to anything else, meaning we can't change between elements. If this is the case, then all the 7 pieces will have to represent the main character for each element. And the extra pawn left over is for the twin sibling, which we find in multiple sources does not currently use a specific element judging by the color of the outfit. Now, which of these 2 issues and speculations do you think is more plausible? The 8 pawns to a different entities, or 8 pawns between the 2 main characters' siblings? Or do you think the pawn belongs to someone else entirely? Let me know in the comments below. Now, for the king. All other pieces work under the king, even if they like it or not. And as I mentioned before, the king is the only piece a pawn cannot promote to. So who represents the king? I'm sure many of us have a pretty good guess. I believe that the king is none other than the one true god of Celestia. Or maybe even this calm, down-to-earth, pretty awesome mage lady. But instead of guessing, let's dive a little bit deeper into the world of Genshin Impact. What we know so far is that Barbados represented the queen, and Morox represented the rook. The 2 bishops would most likely go to Sumeru and Fontaine for their god of wisdom and god of justice, respectively. The 2 knight pieces, possibly to Bayo in Inazuma and Murata in Natlan for their aggressive personalities and their ideologies. That leaves us with the last piece, the second rook, for Tsaritsa. Now, why do I think that Tsaritsa, the god of cryo of Sinesnia, is the rook, just like Morox? In Chinese, the term rook in chess is called cho, meaning a chariot. And chariots were pulled by horses, possibly attributing to the fact that Morox has the Adeptites and Saritsa has the Harbingers under their command to help them achieve their goals. Now, why am I mentioning this? Judging by the fact that Morox knows what Saritsa is up to at the end of the Liyue arc and willingly gave his Gnosis to her, as rooks they might understand what's going on and have similar goals. But what is Saritsa planning exactly? If she knows that the king is the one true god of Celestia, what can she really do? It would have been nice if Mr. Know-It-All told us, but instead, he left us with a cliffhanger. But there might be another method to finding this answer, by using the very thing that started this whole video, chess. Let's examine the rook. Interestingly, similar to the pawn, the rook also has a hidden mechanic, castling. Castling is a move in chess where it's strictly used to relocate the king in a more favorable position. Now before we go on, Saritsa is still an archon, and the god of Celestia has ultimate authority over her. And in chess, the pieces from the same side can't take out their own king. That's just ridiculous. But what if Saritsa's goal isn't to take out this god, but instead relocate it? Relocate it in a more favorable position so a certain event may occur in the future. Now, in terms of castling, there are two requirements that needs to be set in place. First, the king and the rook cannot have moved. The second, there cannot be any pieces in the way between the king and the rook. It's very interesting that the god of Celestia realistically only resides in Celestia, and Saritsa uses the Harbingers to do her bidding while she stays put in Senesnia. And maybe this is the reason why Saritsa is collecting all the Gnosis to remove the pieces in the way. So what does this all mean? If the identities of the king and the pawn in this theory is accurate, and Saritsa succeeds in her objective, she will be able to castle or relocate the king into the mortal realm, which might pave the way for other events in the future of the story. Maybe all the occurrences in the current story about the main character going around messing everything up unknowingly just because we want some rewards is all predestined and necessary. Is Pawn the main character? Is King the one true god of Celestia? What do you think? If you have any thoughts, make sure you let me know in the comments. But most importantly, remember, this is just a theory. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. If you want to join the community, make sure you check out my Twitch and Discord in the description below. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.